Oh, and by the way, I did forget to mention in the last video about the tools that we are going to use in order to build this application, or the tools we are going to use for React Native app development. So basically, why do we need tools? You know, so tools aren't just there for um, our convenience, but rather whenever we code, if we are a programmer, we are basically craftsmen, and in order to craft something which is very artistic or which is very beautiful, we need some nice tools which will allow us to mold our whatever we are building into the way that we want. So when it comes to the tools that we are going to use, then what we need is we need a modern code editor, not an IDE. So if you are using something like IntelliJ or uh, Android Studio or Eclipse or any of this, then all of these are IDEs. This is going to be an overkill. We don't need this. We don't need any of these. But we are looking for some lightweight code editors, something like Sublime Text 3 or um, what I'm using, the editor that you see here, this is Visual Studio Code or Atom. All of these things which are mentioned here are all open source, free to download, except Sublime Text 3. This is not open source, but there's a free version available which you can download and use it. It's very fast. I use Visual Studio Code, or you could also go with Atom. The next thing that we require is Node.js. So Node.js is basically uh, an environment for running JavaScript code outside of the browser. So traditionally, we used to run JavaScript only within the browser, but um, in about 2009, Node.js came into the picture, wherein we were then able to run JavaScript not only within the browser but within Node.js itself. Um, so which allowed us to do uh, which basically made JavaScript a general purpose language. Earlier, it was only a language of the web, but today JavaScript is a general purpose language, and it's because and using that even in native app development, um, you can see that it has become quite general. So Node.js is going to be used for React Native app development. Um, in addition to this, I would recommend you to download Git or Git Bash. Git Bash specifically for Windows. And the reason why I'm suggesting this is because you must have observed that I use a Linux environment. And in case you're using a Windows environment and some of the commands don't add up, I use Linux commands most of the time. Um, if you try the same commands in PowerShell or command prompt, there is a chance that they might not work. So for that reason, I suggest you to install Git, and in the process of installing Git, also make sure that Git Bash gets installed. It's an optional dependency. So if you please make sure you have this, and whenever you see me use the terminal, then you could potentially use PowerShell as well. But in case there is something that doesn't work, then Git Bash is a good fallback for it. And finally, Chrome browser, the latest Chrome browser, because whenever we start a React Native um, in development, whenever we start that project in development, it creates a server, and that server is accessed using Chrome browser, and it allows us to, I think it allows us to debug our code also within the Chrome browser itself. So the latest Chrome browser is also a necessity. Um, so uh, you could basically Google for any of these text editors, download them and use it. Um, is something which you could just go to the official website, download and install this 12 version, which is the current version. Um, if you look at this, okay, I have an older version of Node.js. Let me quickly change that. Okay, so I just downloaded and installed the version 12, and but this only works in Linux and only for a certain configuration. Just ignore what I did here for the time being. In case you're using Windows, then definitely you will have to click on this, download the exe file, and go through the installation process. In case you're using Linux, then the package manager itself will have a decent version of Node.js that is sufficient. After installing Node.js, just make sure that these commands execute: node-v, npm-v, and npx-v. So these are the three commands which are provided by the Node.js um, uh, package. So make sure that all these three are working. When it comes to Git, the website is gitscm.com. And you could go to the download section here and download the Windows version. If you're using Linux or Mac, then you can use the package manager. In Linux, you can use APT or Aptitude in Ubuntu or Debian-based systems, or you can use um, Brew in Mac to install Git. And I'm pretty sure all of us would be familiar to about how to install the latest Chrome browser, right? So these are the tools that we are going to use throughout this program, and yeah. So let's get started with the next session.